You did send me an article earlier about something Uli said. And as a guitar player, I found it very interesting. And I'll actually quote it. It's on ultimateguitar.com. It was a recent interview with Uli John Roth. He was basically asked during his visit to the Academy of Tone podcast, so a credit to them. Uli reflected on what the interview called his screaming guitar tone, admitting that he learned from the best since he witnessed Jimi Hendrix playing live. I envy Uli for that. Uli compared the guitar tone of the older generation with younger artists. Apart from Jimmy, he reflected on Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, and Mick Taylor, who, if no one knows who that is, he was the lead guitarist of the Rolling Stones before Ron Wood, calling them sound conscious. However, he then added, this is an art form that sadly has been almost completely lost. Nowadays, there are a lot of kids who have fantastic technique, and you could see a lot of them on YouTube shorts, and they're very musical, they could play, etc. But it's so rare that you hear someone who cares about tone and expression, as they all tend to sound factory made. And I can't blame them because that's how they grew up. So as a guitar player, I'm not going to call myself a musician because I don't make my living playing music. But as a guitar player, I could agree with that statement. From when I first realized that I could play, my whole purpose was to find my own voice within my instrument, you know, to channel the right sound with the right guitar, the right strings, the right pickup, and the right amp, and be able to express how I feel or what I'm thinking through my playing. So it's like if I write a guitar solo where it's like I want the listener to hear joy or anger or whatever, I will express that however best I can through the tools that I have. And that is from an emotional standpoint. From a mechanical standpoint, it's very hard to completely lug around all of your equipment from your home to the venue and back, knowing that at my age, at 43 years old, I'm more prone to back issues now than I was when I was in my early 20s. That being said, I don't think it's necessary to have the full stack of, you know, the head and two cabinets to lug around with me anywhere. You know, now it's like, you know, if the room is big enough, you know, you bring your amp, you mic it up to the PA, and boom, there you go. If the room is too small, then you can bring this, and this is not an advertisement for Horizon devices, but I'm very happy with this preamp that I could put on my pedal board and go direct from here to the PA, play. I think my dog is really tired of hearing about my Horizon devices preamp. Anyway, so, you know.
Horizon, send Lou free stuff.
So, you know, plug it directly into the PA and, you know, get the clean tone that you want through the, you know, through no channel, and get the right amount of distortion or overdrive that you want from here. But at the end of the day, the difference, what I think separates me is, again, I'm not using guitar playing as a way to sound like everybody else. I'm doing me. So right. I agree with Uli that I feel like sometimes you have a lot of guitar players that do show up on YouTube, and you're all great, but with the exception of a few of you, I can't tell the difference. I'm sorry. I agree with Uli Roth.
I have to as well. I mean, it's very, very important, which is why just there's a lot of more modern bands and newer stuff where I just can't call it a favorite because it doesn't really resonate with me emotionally, because it's very clean. It's very well played. They're great players, but there's no warmth to the tone, really. It's not expressive enough. Like on Evening Wind, you can feel that in your heart when his guitar ascends with Klaus's voice, and even during the lead up to it and throughout the whole album, you know, it's expressive. It's almost lyrical with the tones a lot of these guys had in the 70s. Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult's another real good one for comparison.
Yeah, and you know, I get a little tiffed when I hear people knock certain guitar players for relying on the pentatonic scale. There is a YouTuber that I enjoy called Bradley Hall. I find him to be entertaining. But he was the one that publicized his distaste for Kirk Hammett as a guitarist for not utilizing his playing skill to its full capability and relying on the pentatonic scale. Now, regardless of how you personally feel about Kirk Hammett, you may love him, you may hate him, you may respect him, you may care less, but you know, Kirk's been doing it for 40 years. I may not prefer his playing style, but I respect him for doing what he's doing. So I think it's very diminishing to knock guitar players that don't play the same as you. At the same token, to knock guitarists who rely on the pentatonic scale, I think it's a cheap shot because it's not if you play the pentatonic scale, it's how well you do what you do with the pentatonic scale. And Buck Dharma, you listen to those Blue Oyster Cult albums and you tell me that his playing doesn't make the hair on your arms rise.
Yep. Everybody should listen to the live version of Veteran of the Psychic Wars on the Extraterrestrial live album from '82. That is one of the best solos of all time.
I agree with your statements. That being said, bringing it back to the Scorpions, I feel like with Uli, they were truly coming into their own. Obviously, losing Uli didn't hurt them. I mean, it hurt us who won't hear Uli with the Scorpions anymore unless we listen to In Trance, Virgin Killer, and Taken by Force and Tokyo Tapes. But I'm sure the Scorpions are not crying their way to the bank, and Uli doesn't seem to be hurting either because he's got a killer band that he goes out with, and him and Steve Hackett are two guitar players I would love to see in concert one day.